Hello, hello, hello. I am so glad that you're here. Welcome back. If you've been on my channel before or you're a subscriber, and if you're new, hi, so glad that you're here. And today's video, I'm talking about the various signs that it might be time to change your life. And this is actually a part of my series where I'm talking about my own reinvention of my life in my 40s. And this is probably going to be the second video in that series. So today I'm going to dive into what are some of the signs that you might see or experience if it is time to make a change in your life. And I've experienced not one, but all of these actually. So let's dive in. First on the list is going to be lack of satisfaction. So this is something that's a very telling sign. If there's a lack of satisfaction, I think also a lack of just contentment and not necessarily happiness, because that's fleeting. It comes and it goes, that sort of thing. It's temporal. But if there's a lack of satisfaction and feeling okay and content with a part of your life, that might be a strong indicator that that part of your life, it might be time to change. I've had that experience with when I start to outgrow my places of employment, the type of work that I do. I've also had that happen in places that I live where I just don't feel, the space just doesn't feel satisfying anymore. So that's one of the signs. The other is that you're starting to make life choices, or you realize that you are making life choices out of fear versus faith or hope. So you're making choices because you're fearful of something happening, or you're fearful that if you don't make this choice, this might happen. Once you start to base your decisions and the things that you do around fear versus your hope of what could happen, that is a strong indicator that that part of your life may need to change, because everything around it is based in the fear of something, or the fear of something happening versus your hope for all the good things that can happen. Another indicator is that you don't recognize yourself anymore. If at any point, and this has happened to me, if at any point you look at yourself in the mirror and you do not recognize who you are, you don't recognize the person looking back at you, it is a clear sign that you need to change an aspect of your life, or you may need to do a whole life overhaul. If that person becomes a stranger, whether just how the physical body that they're in, it's gotten to a point that you don't even recognize yourself, or you're looking at yourself in the eyes in the mirror and the person looking back at you that reflection is not familiar. It's so far-fetched, it's so far gone, it's so far off course of where you wanted your life to be and who you wanted to be. Once you start to see those things, yes, friend, don't even start putting a plan together right now. Let's see, the other thing I wrote down. Every now and then I'm looking at my computer screen because I just want to make sure I don't miss any of the points that I had written down. A sense that your life is off track or out of alignment. If you ever feel like, you know what, it just feels like I'm off base, I'm out of alignment, like I feel off, and I may feel off because of the environment that I am in. Maybe the type of work that I'm doing just doesn't really align with who I am, with what my passions are, with what I feel like my real strengths are. You know, once you start to feel like what you're doing and who you are and how you're showing up in the world is like very disconnected to who you feel your true self is, and also disconnected from the picture of your future self, yeah, that might be a strong sign that it's time to possibly change your life or change aspects of your life. That might be your work, that might be physically, you might need to change that. You might need to change where you live, that sort of thing. But yeah, that's a big giveaway, is that you start to feel like off track or out of alignment. significant physical changes that may not be positive. So if physically you start to notice that, wow, I've either gotten dangerously thin or I have gotten much heavier than I've been in previous, in previous years, and you can feel like, wow, this really feels unhealthy. I don't feel like myself. I don't feel at home in my body. Those are signs once you start to have some real physical changes that are drastic from what's the normal for your body size. That could be an indicator too that it's time for a change, particularly a physical change, a mindset change. Ongoing depression, no, I can talk about it. I could talk about this. Once you start feeling, and you can always, experience depression just because of the stressors of life, the stressors of your job, the stressors of like maybe raising a family, just different things that are just stressors that you cannot avoid because it's just a part of living, right? That's one thing. But when you have this ongoing, underlining depressive state and you're noticing it because maybe every day after work, you always have to have a drink to wind down, or when you leave work and you get home, you're just very disassociated from your own life. You're either very lethargic, very sad. I've experienced that when I had a depressive state when I was going through like a significant lifestyle change in terms of going through a divorce, or realizing I'm going to be going through a divorce, realizing, okay, it's about that time. I just was very depressed. Like I was just always very tired. That's how it showed up in my body. It was just like this lethargic state that I was like really struggling to stay awake and have energy in the day. That's how it showed up for me. You might experience ongoing depression where you just don't want to be around your family or your friends. You want to just be siloed and by yourself and secluded and separated, and that sort of distance from your loved ones, that's just an offshoot of the depression. There's many other ways that depression can show up, but for this particular piece here, in terms of what I'm sharing, it's when it's ongoing. It's been a few months now, and you're still in a slump. It's maybe been a couple years, and you're still in a slump, and you realize, no, like I haven't really been able to like get myself back. I haven't been able to catch myself and feel joy and happiness in my life from different sources. Even things that used to make me happy just don't bring me that type of feeling of gratification anymore. Yeah, that could be a real strong sign that like there's something in your life that needs to change. It needs to be changed. Oh, yes, your outlook and your speech becomes overwhelmingly negative. Yeah, this is a clear indicator. When everything that you have to say, your commentary, your opinion on something, it's just always negative. If that's the case, this is a sign that you may need to change. It's time for a change, because if you're experiencing your world and the glasses through which you see the world and you see experiences and you interact with people, that reflection back out in the world is always like a negative or pessimistic view. Yeah, it's time to really take a look at your environment, take a look at yourself, and really see where the changes need to be made so that you can have a more positive, optimistic, hopeful view of what your future, what your present is. You feel stuck in any area of your life. Yeah, that's kind of close to the alignment piece, but you feel stuck. It's like you're trying to move this part of your life ahead, but it's not really moving. It's not really evolving and changing and getting better. You feel stuck. And I think we all know like what that stuck feeling is like. Once you start to notice that, that's also a strong indicator that it's time for a change. Oh, the last one that I wrote down here is really good. You're all out of dreams and goals that drive you. Strong indicator that it's time to change your life. And it may be it may not be a major change that's needed. It might be a minor change, but you just don't have any goals and dreams that really drive you, that get you excited, that gets you out of bed, that makes you like work on it all hours of the night because you're just so excited about it. You know, if you don't have a goal or a dream that still lights you up, that you still get excited about the possibility of this happening and it enhancing your life in some way, or you enhancing the lives of others in some way, yeah, that's a sign that there might be a change. And like I said, it might not be a major change. Maybe you just need to add something to your life in terms of like a hobby or an activity that's going to give back to others, that's going to tie into like a goal or a dream you have to have impact. That's like a small example of how having something that drives you, right? So yeah, if you start to realize, whoa, I don't really have a goal or a dream that I'm really like working towards, yeah, that's a strong indicator that it might be time to change. So those are just a few things that I wanted to share in terms of how to know if it's time to change your life. If there are some other indicators that has been prevalent for you and that you've noticed in your life, I would love to hear. Put it down in the comments. Let me know what are some signs that you knew that you needed to change up something in your life. So thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. And this is a part of a series where I'm talking about my own personal reinvention in my 40s. So you'll see a lot more videos along this subject matter. So thank you for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the comments.